Hello. Um, I just want to share something that I've done a whole bunch of tests on, and I am happy that I found a way around this problem. And the problem I'm talking about is most of us have sRGB monitors. Very few of us actually have Rec 709 screens, especially when you're delivering to clients who use laptops and desktops and regular monitors and operating systems that all display a web space sRGB. All the video programs want to output Rec 709, which is fine, but that is a much it's a dimmer display meant for living room last time, and sRGB is a brighter display. So when you work on a Rec 709 screen and when you export it in Rec 709, when people watch those things in sRGB on an sRGB display, everything looks lifted. When you upload it to YouTube, I don't know what happens, but there's a whole mess of stuff going on there. So recently what I found out is that you can work in sRGB, and ideally I think that's the way it should be, because you should always be monitoring in your final delivery as much as possible. And most of the time, at least for me where I work, most of the deliveries we are giving are for web, which is the sRGB space. So there's a small caveat there. So I just want to share with you how I set up all the projects in the studio, and now I think it's going to be the most universal way to deliver videos, because when we deliver a video, our clients will view it on their laptops, on their computers. They will also upload it to Frame.io or sometimes even on YouTube just to check and stuff like that. So I want them to be able to have a unified viewing experience. Same with that is as close, if not almost exactly, what we are monitoring inside the studio on our sRGB monitors. So over here, I have a Resolve project set up. Currently, there is no color management yet. So typically, you can do color management yourself here if you get into the node tabs and you do your color space transforms. I don't want to do that because that's very time consuming. What I prefer to do is, let's just say I have a whole bunch of clips here, right? Instead of applying LUTs to each and every one of them, or creating a node tree and copying and pasting of node trees, and if you make a color grade, you can't, if you're working with multiple cameras, it's kind of a mess. So what I like to do is use either Aces, which I use in the studio a lot, or DaVinci color management. For this round, we'll use DaVinci color management because for some reason I'll show you the interpretation of Panasonic colors are not a little bit more crunchy in Aces. So if you see here, I'll just choose this for the grading environment. By default, it wants to output Rec 709, but my screen is actually sRGB. But if I leave this as Rec 709, and how do you get all these videos to display properly? You just need to select the clips, choose your input color space, the camera, ta-da, and it's done. So all the clips now are being transformed and color managed properly by Resolve, and you are free to make adjustments, very photographic adjustments. You can see how all those things are brought back. Okay, and this is quite close to the camera. If I use Aces, and same thing, Rec 709, okay, we'll do the same thing also by choosing the Aces input transform to Panasonic V35. So this is a much more crunchy, contrasty image. You lose a little bit of saturation in Aces for Panasonic cameras, but that's not an issue. It's just a different way of working. So I like this when I'm working with Panasonic cameras because I think the saturation looks more natural. So right now, I'm viewing a Rec 709 output on an sRGB screen, which you could work this way and just account for the slight difference, and generally it would be a faithful representation based on what you see here. But the problem comes with if you are working with CG or other people's work that have been monitored in sRGB, and you bring it here, it's not going to monitor the same. And I'll show you what it actually looked like on camera. It would be this, where we output to our monitoring color space. And so if I press save, you'll see that the image is a lot more controlled. And this is not a lifted image. This is much more accurate to how things were shot and seen on camera. It's a little bug, right? So just know that if you have an sRGB monitor, you should be outputting sRGB so you are monitoring correctly. And when you are delivering for web, it should also be sRGB. If you had to make an output for Rec 709, then you can just choose accordingly. And if you had a Rec 709 screen, then if I can simulate this, if I can simulate my monitor to be a Rec 709 screen, then it would be this, right? But my monitor is sRGB, and that's why everything is lifted. So how do we now export this thing? So if we assume that this is going to be correct and sRGB, you save it. This is the nice crunchy image. If we make some general adjustments and we pull the contrast, all right, and then we get some subtractive saturation going on. And especially if, let's say, if part of the look here was to have a very deep shadows, right? And if we wanted to do one of those filmic transforms, we could also. So timeline output Rec 709 Cineon film log. This will be Rec 709 to a timeline, and then we can choose the LUT, one of the codec, Fujifilm. So this would be, let's say this is my grade, and you can see the black here is getting quite crushed, but we can, let's say we really wanted it to be very close to black, but not completely crushed, right? So we can add a very small softening of the shadows here, and then maybe we want to balance the image just a little bit and take off some of that. So let's say this is the grade that I want. That's quite a nice grade. Anyway, let's just export this image, right? So right now we are monitoring sRGB, and we can export this thing sRGB, and then no tags, or the tags are default. Tag project setting, right? Tagging is this thing over here. So same as project. This is the default one where it's same as project. And so I'm going to export this output sRGB tag to project, and let me just replace that, and let me show you one more export for now, this Rec 709, just so that we don't have to do this again, right? So this will be tag Rec 709, and then some people might tell you that you might want to export this in Rec 709 Gamma 2.4, whatever it is, right? So that lifts the image a bit, setting. This would be output Rec 709, tag Rec 709, right? So let's see the differences between these three outputs. Right now, the first one we exported was sRGB, tag Rec 709, and this, if we view this back in sRGB, this should be a faithful representation of the image, right? You can see that color-wise, it hasn't shifted. And if we view the Rec 709, the sRGB tag Rec 709, there shouldn't be a difference either, because it's still an sRGB export. But if we see now the Rec 709 export, it's going to be lifted. And this doesn't make any sense when you send it to the client, because they'll be like, if they wanted it to be more contrasty, then this would be an issue, right? Because technically, if I had a Rec 709 screen, I'll be viewing it like that, and I'll make the grid. And the idea here is that you, whatever this grid is, you change the output to match your monitoring space. So you can imagine if I was monitoring Rec 709, it would look correct. It would look exactly the same as this, because this is my monitor, which is sRGB, right? And then if I was doing this in Rec 709, and I export this as Rec 709, what comes out will be on a desktop be a lifted image when you compare this with the intention, right? If I had a Rec 709 screen, this would be it, and the problem would be on the export, it will be lifted. And that's not what we want. We want the sRGB one, because our desktops are all sRGB, our monitors are all sRGB. And here comes the thing when we upload. So let's see what happens when we upload these three videos. This is export sRGB tag Rec 709. That's the one that we want actually. Okay, so if you were working on a Rec 709 screen and you're exporting in Rec 709 and then uploading to YouTube, you will still, if I'm not wrong, it would still be lifted. This is still the lifted image. If my intention was this much more contrasty image, the export on YouTube is still not correct, right? It's lifted. And if you export just the sRGB without tagging the Rec 709, what you're going to end up with is a crushed image, because YouTube is going to assume that this needs to be converted, and it's going to crush your image, and that's not what you want either. So you can see that sRGB tag project, this video actually looks the same as the one in Resolve as it does on a desktop player, right? These two images are the same. This is Rec 7 sRGB tag project, and this is sRGB export on my sRGB monitor. But when we upload this to YouTube, it gets crushed, and that's not what you want either. So here's the solution: sRGB tag Rec 709. When you do this, you will have the most unified experience, where on your sRGB monitoring, you're gonna get this double check sRGB output. My monitor is sRGB. This image is what I want in sRGB. When I export this sRGB Tech Rec 709, I still get a faithful representation for all who are supposed to view it on the desktop. You can see that this is the same image, and when we upload this to YouTube, sRGB Tech Rec 709, this is also the image that we colored and wanted. So this, in my opinion, is the most unified experience, and I don't know if it's correct, but it makes sense and the results are good. Where we monitor on an sRGB screen, we grade on an sRGB screen for sRGB output and deliveries, which is web. And when our clients review these footages on their desktop, you will have this is the desktop representation, the correct representation, our intention, this will be done there. And then if they upload it to online platforms, it would look like this, and it would be all the same as our intention in Resolve when we monitor an sRGB screen. Happy to hear from anyone who finds that this is wrong, helpful. I would love to hear your thoughts, your comments, and get into a discussion if possible. But yeah, that's it. I hope this was helpful, and hopefully it wasn't too long. I ramble, but I think the point is there. If anything else, let me know in the comments if there are any. And it's late. I'm going to sleep. Bye bye.